I've always believed that silence is not emptiness, it's storage. While most people rush to fill the air with words, I've found peace in watching, in listening, in simply existing within the quiet. The world often mistakes this stillness for weakness. They call it shyness, indifference, or even arrogance. But those who observe more than they speak are not absent from the world. They are deeply woven into it. We are the ones who see what others overlook, the trembling hands behind forced smiles, the quick glances between words, the sighs that follow laughter. We hear the truth in tone more than in text. We notice patterns in people, in energy, in timing, and sometimes that knowing becomes both a gift and a curse. Because observation is intimacy without permission. You start to understand people more than they understand themselves. You hear what they don't say. You see what they try to hide. And that kind of awareness, it can be heavy. In a world obsessed with expression, we live in the shadows of perception. But there's power here, a kind of quiet strength that needs no validation. This is the psychology of those who speak little, but know much. The ones who see deeply, and therefore feel deeply. The silent observers of a noisy world. I've learned that silence is not the absence of thought, it's the amplifier of it. When you speak less, your mind doesn't quiet down, it sharpens. Every glance, every pause, every inconsistency in tone becomes data. You start noticing how people's words rarely match their eyes. How laughter sometimes hides a plea for help. How anger often conceals a wound too deep to explain. People assume those who observe more than they speak are detached, but it's quite the opposite. We are immersed, watching every subtle shift in the emotional atmosphere. Where others hear sentences, we hear subtext. Where others see actions, we see motives. It's not about being suspicious, it's about being awake. The silent mind is like a still lake, calm on the surface, but underneath, it reflects everything that touches it. Every experience ripples through, echoing in ways we can't always describe. That's why we take time to respond, not because we have nothing to say, but because we're processing layers. We're filtering meaning from noise. We want our words to land, not just fill space. But this quiet awareness comes with a price. You begin to see more than you wish you did. You notice the contradictions in people you love. You sense their hidden disappointments, their unspoken comparisons, their quiet resentments. And though they never say it, you feel it. You feel it like static in the air before a storm. Sometimes, this awareness becomes overwhelming. You wish you could unsee, to just exist, to laugh without reading too deeply into the moment. But once your perception widens, it's hard to narrow it back down. You become emotionally tuned, almost like an antenna picking up frequencies that others are blissfully deaf to. That's why observers often seem distant. It's not because we don't care, it's because we care too much, too deeply. We absorb everything: energy, tone, silence, tension. And that level of awareness demands distance. It's self-preservation. Ironically, while others believe we're quiet because we lack confidence, our silence often comes from confidence. The confidence that not everything needs to be said, that truth doesn't always need a voice to exist. We know that words can distort meaning, while silence, at times, can reveal it. People underestimate how powerful stillness can be. It disarms the loud. It unsettles the deceptive. When you stop reacting, people start revealing themselves. Their motives, their fears, their insecurities. Because silence is a mirror, it forces others to face their own noise. And in that quiet reflection, you begin to understand something profound. That those who speak less are not passive participants in life, they are its deepest witnesses. They are not background characters, they are the record keepers of humanity's subtle truths. The silent mind doesn't need to shout to be heard. It speaks through perception, through understanding, through the quiet, knowing that the world is far louder than it needs to be. There's a quiet heaviness that comes with observing more than you speak, a kind of emotional gravity that pulls you inward. When you see too much, you carry too much. Every unspoken emotion, every flicker of sadness that others overlook, lingers in your mind long after the moment passes. You begin to feel like an emotional archive, storing memories that aren't even yours. The way someone's voice cracked mid-sentence, the silence that followed a joke that didn't land, the forced smile that was supposed to hide exhaustion. These are fragments most people forget, but the observer remembers. That's the paradox of being emotionally perceptive. The same gift that helps you understand people also makes you ache for them. You understand why they do the things they do, even when it hurts you. You justify their distance, excuse their temper, forgive their coldness, because you see the pain behind it. You see that they're not cruel, they're broken. They're not careless, they're lost. But understanding doesn't protect you from feeling. In fact, it makes the pain sharper. You realize that the more you understand people, the harder it becomes to be angry at them. And when you lose the ability to be angry, you lose one of the few defenses your heart has against disappointment. You start internalizing everything, believing that maybe you're the problem for feeling too much, for noticing what others ignore. There's a quiet loneliness that comes with this level of awareness. Because while others can argue, blame, or move on easily, you stay, not physically, but emotionally. You replay conversations in your head, analyzing what wasn't said. You sense when people pull away long before they actually do. You live in the echoes of emotions that no one else can hear. People often think the silent ones are detached, but they don't know that silence is sometimes the only way to manage the weight of perception. Speaking about everything you see would sound paranoid. Trying to explain what you feel would sound dramatic. So you hold it in, all of it. You let the noise of others fill the air while you quietly drown in awareness. And yet, despite this burden, there's something sacred about it. You develop empathy that feels almost spiritual. You see beauty in brokenness, truth in contradiction, and strength in vulnerability. You learn that silence is not emptiness, it's space. Space to think, to feel, to forgive. But this depth also creates a strange kind of alienation. You start existing between worlds too intuitive for the surface-level conversations, too introspective for the constant noise. You crave connection but fear being misunderstood because your thoughts don't come in fragments, they come in oceans. So you stay quiet. You smile, you nod, you observe, while carrying worlds within you that no one will ever fully understand. It's both a gift and a curse. To see everything but remain unseen. To hear the truth behind every word, but have no one to share it with. That's the emotional paradox of observers. They see too much to belong completely, yet they care too deeply to walk away. People often mistake silence for submission, as if not responding means you have nothing to say. But for those who observe more than they speak, silence is never emptiness. It's strategy, it's restraint, it's power wrapped in calm. Silence is where the observer builds strength. While others rush to defend their egos with words, the observer studies. They watch the rhythm of emotions unfold, the pattern of reactions, the tone beneath the tone. They understand that most arguments are not about truth but about control, and silence is the one thing that cannot be controlled. To be silent is to hold your power inward instead of spilling it outward. It is refusing to give the world access to your peace. The observer knows that the loudest people in the room often seek validation, not understanding. They speak to fill a void, not to reveal truth. So the quiet one listens, not because they're timid, but because they're patient. They know that time reveals everything that words try to hide. In silence, they learn the art of clarity. They begin to notice what truly matters and what is just noise. They discover that not every reaction deserves a response, and not every confrontation needs to be won. Some battles are best ended by walking away with dignity rather than staying to prove a point that no one is ready to understand. This kind of silence unnerves people. It exposes their insecurity. When you don't react, they project. They begin to question themselves, because they can't read you, can't provoke you, can't pull you into the chaos that feeds them. And that's when you realize silence isn't weakness. It's emotional maturity. It's the decision to protect your energy instead of wasting it trying to explain your truth to those committed to misunderstanding you. But silence isn't always easy. Sometimes it feels like swallowing fire, restraining the urge to correct lies, to speak your heart, to demand to be seen. Yet, over time, you learn that not everything needs to be said for it to be known. Truth has its own echo. It doesn't need your voice, it needs your peace. The observer's silence is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. It's the deep knowing that words once spoken cannot be retrieved, but thoughts can be refined. So they wait until their mind is calm enough to speak without the tremor of pain or pride. And when they finally do speak, the world listens, not because their voice is loud, but because their silence has made it sacred. Every word carries weight. Every sentence holds intention. They don't speak to fill the air, they speak to move it. There's a saying, the tiger doesn't roar before it pounces. The same is true for quiet souls. Their silence isn't fear, it's focus. It's patience preparing to strike with purpose when the time is right. So never underestimate the one who observes in silence. Their quiet may be invisible, but their insight shapes everything around them. Because in a world that screams for attention, the one who chooses silence holds the real power. In the end, those who observe more than they speak carry a strange kind of peace, the kind that isn't loud but lasting. They've learned that silence doesn't mean absence, it means awareness. It's the space between chaos and clarity, between impulse and wisdom. They've watched the world tire itself out with noise. Everyone shouting to be right, to be seen, to be heard. But they discovered something different. The most powerful truths don't need to compete for attention. They simply exist. Steady, unbothered, and eternal. To live this way is to walk the paradox of restraint, to know the answer but not always give it, to feel the pain but not always show it, to see the truth but wait for the world to catch up. And maybe that's why observers often feel both wise and lonely, because in a world that glorifies reaction, reflection can feel like exile. But make no mistake, silence is not isolation. It's preservation. It's the art of keeping your soul unpolluted while everyone else fights to be understood. So, to the quiet ones, the watchers, the thinkers, the silent strength behind the noise, know this. Your calm is not weakness. Your stillness is not distance. Your silence is your sanctuary. Because sometimes, the most powerful statement you can make is to say nothing at all. And in that stillness, your presence speaks louder than any argument ever could.